Okay.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Ms. Rubio. Thank you for joining me on the 25th episode of One to Come Up, a podcast where aspiring entrepreneurs can learn from the best of the best and to really see what advice they have to offer, what turning points in their life might be interested. So I'm really interested in learning about your career, and thank you for sharing this time with me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so normally I like to start the podcast about your time in college, which is where I'm headed. So maybe if you wanted to share why you chose to study government and international relationships and how'd you enjoy your experience?
Sure. So I went to college at Cornell University. Um, I attended, this is going to age me, but I attended from 2005 to 2009 in College of Arts and Sciences. I, for me, going to just making the choice to go there, having the opportunity to, and having the financial support from the institution was really transformational. My family is from Panama. I'm an immigrant. I moved here when I was very young and grew up mostly in Colorado. But my I have an older sister, and when she was getting ready to go to college, there were, a lot of things in the paperwork as you kind of become a naturalized citizen, your social security and everything like that changes that my parents didn't realize they had to do because they were immigrants too. And so I was lucky being the second one that they had been through some of those systems and had taken care of them with me. But my parents grew up in small towns in Panama. They came here so that we could have better opportunities, and getting into and having the financial possibility from the institution to attend Cornell was a huge kind of like accomplishment for them as it was for me. So I really Cornell holds a special place in my heart because not only did they make possible financially for me to attend there, but um, I it really like opened up my world in different ways. The East Coast culture is different than what we're used to here in the Mountain West, but I think just like the level of instructors that I had access to were people that were shaping the world that I was living in through government, through businesses, through other institutions, in community, through social change movements. And it's really unique and special to have that opportunity. I also was exposed to so many different perspectives and people from different places that that I hadn't kind of been exposed to before. I made friends who are lifelong friends who I still keep in touch with. None of them live in Denver, but it's okay. And I also had the opportunity, through planning and support from academic advisors, to spend my junior year off campus one semester doing a Washington semester that Cornell has a program for, and the next semester studying abroad in Rome. I think for me, I chose to study government and international relations because being an immigrant, even as I was young, like parts of my life included becoming a citizen, seeing my parents vote for the first time, understanding why it was so important, especially coming from a country like Panama where the US has such an influence on the people and the politics there throughout its whole history. I think understanding those government systems and how government can impact our everyday lives and major things that we may not think about every day, and the way that the many ways people can interact with government even if they are not working in government. So that's kind of why I liked it.
Yeah, so that sounds like a, very nice story, a very empowering story, and it sounds like you made the most of it, really. Um,
I tried.
Yes, definitely. But that's also really cool. I didn't find that about your career, the semesters abroad in Rome and down in DC. That must have been a lot of fun.
It was a great year, yeah.
Yeah. So then yeah, afterwards, in 2009, you worked for Teach for America. And so I imagine that's a little bit different than government. So could you tell us about that?
Sure. So I graduated, like I'm sure other people who you've spoken to from the list many years ago, into the financial crisis of 2008. I
Right.
remember the day my senior year when people who had done finance internships, when the markets crashed, and all the folks who had internships and had lined up into jobs after our senior year just offers started falling through, things like that.
Yeah.
It really felt to all of us like, how are we supposed to get a job? Entry level jobs have 3 to 5 years requirements. So And I think probably there are folks in Gen Z, you know, with COVID and everything, who've had a very similar experience. But I was hoping to, I had interned at the Democratic Convention here in Denver and was hoping to go work in DC on the Hill, you know, all the government major stuff. But I got reached out to by Teach for America by a recruiter who worked on campus. And three of my four grandparents were teachers. Education, obviously, like I shared with you, has changed my life. And my parents always kept a focus on education, telling us like, hey, we might not be able to give you a lot of money or assets, but we will do anything we can to make sure you have an education. And I know, like them, there are immigrant parents who came to this country for the same reasons, but may not have access to language, resources, or information to help. So I became interested once I learned more in teaching. You know, the school system is not part of the government, but it is public. The public school system is controlled, you know, there's controls at all different levels, but it's one of the most locally controlled. So people can make a difference in the policies happening in their kids' classroom, like every week at a school board meeting, which I learned when I was teaching. I taught third and fourth grade bilingual literacy and social studies. And I loved my students. They had, you know, I could see a lot of myself in them. Like they were navigating two cultures, school versus home. They were learning a new language. And their parents really wanted everything for them, but we were working in a school system that didn't deliver on that promise. And I think it's not because people don't work hard. It's not because they don't want, you know, students to succeed, but I think there's a lot of like systemic inequities that showed up in the school that I was working in, like many schools across the country. And what I most enjoyed was helping my students know and feel like they can overcome those things, and talking to their parents about the information and the kind of access that policymakers, teachers, educators, people in the field, you know, sitting around having wonky conversations, like, what do they know that families can know? Because it's, the school system is unique in that you might have a teacher for 1 or 2 years, but a parent is with their kid through that whole time, and they can be such a powerful advocate. So that was probably my favorite, knowing how how much my family had supported me and advocated for me, knowing that there was a possibility of partnering with families and students to see a different future for them, and helping them learn, you know, hey, this is what happens in the school system. You know, this is how you could talk to the principal about it, or this is who the decision maker is. So kind of like started informally organizing that way.
That's pretty awesome. But yeah, I really do remember that along my way that I've had some really, really good teachers, and some not so good. And those really good ones, they really can make a difference, and they can really stick with you and go far. So was it during this time, because I know you started Rise Colorado in 2012. So I guess you must have found some inspiration during this time teaching. So what was something that you saw wrong that kind of led you to start Rise?
Definitely. So like I just shared with you, I felt like as I, you know, was a teacher, I was like I felt like I was a cog in a system. But, you know, like when you're everyday experiencing and working within the confines of a system, you see some of the challenges with it. So maybe like the way it was designed is not actually deliverable the way that it intends to be. Um, but the biggest challenge I saw, because I was working in a bilingual classroom, was that like in some, my students' parents brought them on time, ready to learn, breakfast had, hair combed, all the things to school. And like we just weren't delivering on our promise as a public school system to actually help students have an education that set them up for success. When I started my third graders, I didn't have anybody who read on grade level in Spanish or English, because it was a bilingual program. And in my fourth graders, I had one student. So, you know, that just tells you like the kind of experience that the students and the families are having. I think most of my in like a Spanish English bilingual classroom, like all of the families are Latino, and I think there's a lot of respect for the authority of educators. And so having conversations with parents that were like, hey, you can ask questions or you can push back, and it's actually important that you do that, was really important, because I knew how much of a difference that made in my own education when my parents asked questions and advocated for me and my siblings. But just knowing that there was so much information about our kind of like how our academic growth was going, how we were preparing students for the future that families didn't have access to, that we were all sitting around tables talking about. It felt like, hey, if we bring them in, I'm sure they have solutions that they could help us. They could be the most valuable partners for the reason I just told you, where, your family's with you your whole life, hopefully. And so that really made me look at how could I get more involved with families in the school system. So from the classroom, I went on to be a community organizer in education organizing for a local organization that had a national organization that had a local chapter here, and was the first bilingual organizer there. And in that organizing, families are talking about, like, I don't know if I can go to the school to talk to the principal because I don't know if ICE is going to be there, or they don't know if they're new arrivals, if they can just send their kid to school, if it's safe. Like, there are very like different conversations, just basic like relationship building safety that needs to happen with families. And that organization did a lot of great work, but the organizing program was a sort of checkbox to a larger national agenda. And because I was starting the bilingual families like organizing, I was coming up with a lot of challenges that families were having that the organization just hadn't dealt with before, and at that time was not equipped to support them through, like in terms of what the timelines were for meeting those kind of like national goals. And I know that that's, knowing from the classroom that families didn't know what was going on. I was now kind of at the city level and seeing, hey, this wasn't just at my school, this is across a whole city, and I'm sure across different cities and different states. So I kind of came together with two colleagues to say, what if we started an organization where we first like give families the information that like decision makers, policy wonks, educators, everybody has about their kids, then like move forward kind of initiatives and projects and programs that they want to see happen through community organizing, and develop and support members who are directly impacted of the community, which in this case was our students' families, to actually be part of those leadership making bodies, those decision-making bodies. So getting people on school board, getting people on district committees, things like that. So we had kind of like a 3-level approach. And really what made us do it was that we didn't see anybody else kind of dedicating themselves to that type of process. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But I really liked how you did. You were able to bridge the families and the schools, which is something we take for granted. I know that I've taken that for granted, but it's kind of eye-opening to see that it's not like that for everybody. And I didn't even realize such basic conversations, such almost these necessities. These people don't even know they have, and it's
Yeah,
something.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it is an issue, and it is something that needs to be solved. So something that I was kind of interested in, Our Stories, Our Time, the report. Yes, it's 6,000 one-on-one calls. I can only imagine how much cold calling and emailing that was. So I guess could you tell us the what was behind that, and what did you accomplish?
Um, can you tell me more about uh the Our Stories, Our Time? I'm not sure I know what you're referencing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have gotten something wrong in my research here. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, it
That-
sounds really interesting.
yes. I don't know. Sometimes that happens. I don't know. You know how the internet is. But all right. So, then now hopefully this one's right. You won the Teach for America Social Innovation Award. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, we did when I think we were like 2 years really into starting Rise, a year out from our official launch. I think it was 2014 when we had the opportunity to submit an application and compete. And it was really wonderful. Like, the funding was really transformational for growing our program. We met other people who were starting organizations that were doing all kinds of incredible things. Our co-winners were based in DC, doing legal support and guidance for students who were kind of part of this the kind of school to prison pipeline through the types of like behavior systems that we have in schools and how they can set students up for that. Like, those women were incredible. And then we also, and then one of the other tracks, George Dong, who had an organization to kind of hand out eyeglasses all over for students who, hey, like that kid doesn't actually have a reading problem, they just can't see. So people doing, and then the people who, even the people who weren't, of the other finalists, I mean, who didn't win, like people were just doing such incredible work. And that network was really powerful for us to be a part of. And sometimes when you start something and you're just trying to get it going, you're just trying to get funding, you spend most of your day trying to bring people on board. That can be a really lonely experience, even when you have co-founders, even when you're, when you're not actually alone. So having a community of people who are working in that kind of like startup civic action and social justice space was really powerful for us.
Yes, I know what you mean though. It can be lonely a little bit, all of the onboarding and the reaching out
Yeah.
and working. So, but that's something I didn't know that even with a co-founder, even you could still be lonely with that. That's
Yeah, I
interesting.
think it can feel like, are we the only ones that care? And I think that's so human to be like, I'm the, like,
Yeah.
not even entrepreneurs, that it's so human to be like, I'm the only one that's going through this. This has only ever happened to me, and my feelings are so unique. And the most powerful thing that we do as humans is we find connection, right? So when we
Yeah.
can connect with people, we see we're not alone. We learn, we grow, we learn to like ask for help, and that makes us more effective and more impactful, I think.
Yeah, but that's something really cool that this is like something really distinctly personal. A lot of companies they do have really cool products, but not something so human as this as you just mentioned. So yeah, so then you transitioned to your work in the government back in 2016, around circa 2016. So how did you transition from a nonprofit into the public service in the mayor's office?
Yeah, so I did not transition around 2016. I had a lot of things happen before then. And that's okay. It's like there's gaps, it's confusing,
Yeah,
people's lives. It's a long time to research. So I'm impressed that you were able to find what you were. But
yeah.
in 2016, I actually had a car accident that turned my life upside
Oh,
down. I got a brain injury. And so Rise was doing really amazing. We were and like, like we were talking before about opportunities that come up and how do you figure out what makes the most sense. And we had so many opportunities coming up, and sometimes that window can feel like, hey, this is going to stay open for a long time, or like I got to decide this by this point. And just where we were at and the momentum we had, when I found out just kind of how complicated the recovery was going to be, and just physically how I was doing, I wasn't doing well. I couldn't be on my computer, I couldn't be a support to my team. I made the really difficult decision to step away and focus on my recovery. I mean, at that time I was 28, 29, and my doctor told me, hey, like you have suffered really significant cognitive um, deficiencies, and we can't guarantee that they're going to come back. Because I mean, I am not a doctor, I am not a scientist, but brain science is so complicated and individual. And I think that was something that was really hard for me to hear, because at that point, like so much of my life had been like, go here, do this. Like a lot of the validation that you get as a young person is based on like how you following these steps that society has laid out for you. You went to a good college, you got a good job, you're contributing to society, you started something. And then to hear like, hey, you don't know if your brain's going to come back, that really fundamentally shifts the idea of like how you find value in yourself and other people. So that was like, so I had to step away because I wanted the organization to be able to move forward and seize all of those opportunities. And when you're in a leadership role, sometimes those are the hard decisions you have to make. You have to say, hey, I'm going to like free up this salary, free up this opportunity to somebody else who can support, or to a team, to building a team around my co-founder who could support her and to continue to do that amazing work. And I need to heal myself. Like those are some of the hardest things too. Like grind culture, hustle culture is really real. And also like if you're not well, your work won't be well. So that was a hard way to learn that
yes.
lesson. And I spent a couple of years really just like I couldn't drive, I couldn't, like there was a lot of things that I couldn't do. And as I was kind of, as my doctors cleared me to like start working again, I had been reached out to by one of my mentors at Leadership for Educational Equity, who said that they had a program called the Venture Fund and Fellowship that doesn't exist anymore, and that we had done at Rise is kind of like an accelerator program for education nonprofits. and they had some folks who were looking for really specific type of coaching, and she asked me if I would be interested, and I said sure. Like, I don't think I'm an expert, and I'll tell you, I still don't think I'm an expert in anything, just an expert in all the things I've done wrong. That I would tell someone, don't go down that path. So I that's how I started, really. Like, my consulting business was just because I got asked, and then somebody who I coached there told somebody else, and I started getting people reaching out to me and saying, hey, like, will you coach this leader? They're forming an organizing program, they don't know how to fundraise, they're figuring out their board. So really, like, helping civic action leaders bring their organizations to life or transition from one stage to the next. And I love that work because I got to move outside of just education, which is so important to me, but I also got to see how the same families that we were working with in education, like, need support in housing, they need support in all of these other ways, and see the important work that organizations are doing around that. So I got exposed to so many different types of civic action and work in the time that I did that. And I was ready kind of to, like, mix it up. I've been in Denver for a long time, so I applied for a Fulbright and ended up teaching um, kind of organizing 101 and movement studies at the University of Panama, and doing research with women who were leading social change movements in the country from 2021 to 2022. So I took, like, a brief hiatus from my consulting business to do that. And that was really powerful, just to see how people move change forward in a different country with a different government system, with different opportunities, and especially working with women, just with a different kind of relationship to how women have authority. I mean, Panama's home, that's where my family's from, but it was a really unique and special way to be there, and to see things unfolding in the country at that time. When I came back here, I resumed my consulting business and got reached out to. Mayor Mike Johnson got elected in 2023, and they were bringing his team together, and got reached out to about a special project and if I was interested. And I felt ready for a change. I had started doing my business in 2018, so it had been, like, 4 years with the hiatus. And by like spring 2023, and I felt ready to switch it up. I felt ready to try something new. Sometimes when you're consulting, like, you get to be the expert, and that's cool and that's great. But I felt ready to be more, like, closer to implementation, closer to, like, that fire of accountability, like, directly from the people that you're serving. So I was looking for opportunities for that when I got this email saying that they were looking to like, invite people to join a team to like, a specific project. I didn't know what it was. They weren't able to share at that time. And they had gotten my name from a friend and colleague. And I was like, okay, well, I'll learn more. And in those conversations, learned a little bit. I mean, still didn't know much about the project, but sort of had a good back and forth with the transition team and the folks that were hiring for that, and then ended up coming on board, like, 2 weeks later, with the start, or maybe like 10 days later, with the start of, like, the mayor's first day was my first day. And the team ended up being the mayor declared a state of emergency on homelessness because we had a lot of people, after COVID and affordability and everything that's happening right now, sleeping on the streets. And the goal was to bring 1,000 people indoors over the course of 6 months. So I was part of, like, a team of 10 people in the mayor's office. That was, like, their goal. My part of that was the kind of community engagement piece. And it was very, like, fast and furious. People had a lot of feelings about homelessness and about unhoused people that are complicated. But the goal was met. The leadership of that team was really focused on making sure that could be the case, by the end of the year, by around the holidays. And from that, I transitioned to lead the mayor's outreach team, the kind of all of the community engagement over all of his initiatives. So I ended up here sort of like on a whim. Somebody recommended me, and I said, sure, I'll learn more. And I think during that time was really like because I had never worked in government. Community organizing is actually on the, like, not the opposite side, but oftentimes our decision makers are government officials, right? So I knew from studying government what those systems are like, and I knew from learning community organizing how you can come together in ways that you traditionally might not think about to impact those decision makers. But I also found it really valuable to say, like, okay, how does the sausage get made? Like, it's really easy to be outside and, like, throw rocks. It's not easy, actually. It's hard to do that. But also, like, if I don't know what it entails to get the sausage out of the factory, like, I have partial information. So I was excited by the opportunity, and I thought, like, if I hate it, nothing lasts forever. Like I told you before. No, but if I didn't like it, I was like, I can try something else. Like, opportunities will always come your way if you're looking. So, and I really love this job. I feel challenged every day. What I most feel is like a big responsibility because the mayor works fast and furious. He's someone with a huge vision for our city. And that means we're moving a lot of projects forward, and being the person who advises him on how we involve community members in those decisions, in those processes, is a big responsibility, because not only are we moving those projects forward, we're the decision makers. So involving community is not a choice because people care about what happens in their neighborhoods. They will find a way to reach us, but it's a responsibility that we have as government. As long as we live in a democracy, it's something that we have to do.
Yeah, so that was a really cool story. Yeah, but it sounds like a very powerful mission that you have there. So I guess I always like we're kind of nearing the half-hour window. I know you're very busy. I enjoyed listening to all these projects. So normally I like to kind of my last question to be looking forward to the future. So
Yeah.
what do you think? No, that's something I can't research. So I guess I'll leave it open to you. Where do you see yourself heading with the government in Colorado and all the projects?
Man, that's a great question. And I'll tell you, I don't know. Like, I think my in the immediate future, what the our term is through 2027, so I can think that far out. And I hope that, we're doing a lot of massive investments around the city to really catalyze economic development here because we have a complicated federal funding landscape. We don't know the ways that um, the things that matter to people in Denver are going to be impacted by federal changes. And so, really focusing on how can Denver take care of Denver, and that looks like making some of these big investments. What that looks like for my role in my team is really making sure that we're including community in a way that is, really honoring their dignity, honoring the history of, like, different challenging things that have happened between community and city government, and making space for those difficult conversations so that the outcome of these projects can be a new stadium for women's soccer or a new park, and also really true, meaningful investments in community like affordable housing, like anti-displacement strategies and anti-gentrification, so that the people who've made those neighborhoods what they are can continue to enjoy them, and other folks can come in and know that there's history here, there's people who've created the character. So that's in the immediate. I think beyond that, I have learned so much in this job, and like I told you, I think opportunities always exist as long as you're looking for them. And I don't know what's next, but I think I always feel open to, where can I go where I can have an impact, and not because I'm just putting my grain of sand in. That's something we say in Spanish. Like, I'm contributing my grain of sand. Like, if you're thinking about a beach, right? I don't think I'm like a special unicorn. I'm not here to, like, save everyone. I'm just a person who's here right now. And if I can go somewhere and feel like I can have an impact, then it's worth my time. If I feel like, hey, I'm no longer having an impact here, then it's time to look for the next thing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where all of this takes us and what doors open.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know about that saying. I'll have to tell my Spanish teacher, but I'm sure she
Yeah,
knows.
it's aportar tu grano de arena. You can play it there. Aportar mi grano de arena. That's all I'm trying to do. Like, you contribute your grain of
Yes,
sand.
that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. And kind of what you just said here at the end reminded me of some quote actually that I learned yesterday. It's more important to be a person of value than to be a person of success. But you of course were both. But yeah, that's something I just read the other day.
Yeah, lots of things can resonate in different ways. So that's, if that resonated with you, it means that you probably are working hard to be a person of value. And that
Yes.
can be success. So
Wow, thank you for joining me today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and it was really cool to hear about your career.
thank you, Danny. Thanks for reaching out and making time and for the thoughtful
Yeah.
questions.
Uh, Thank you.